This 30 days are extremely important. So let's go straight into that. In fact, let me share. I have I'm starting with a little bit of a disclaimer, and that disclaimer is that I prepared the presentation. Though I know what I need to speak to you, I know in terms of, whether depending on every student that is there in front of us, what he or she should do in the next 30 days. But I think I tried to make the presentation. With that, let me start off with what my agenda is. The first question that anybody asks is, boss, last 30 days, do you need even to plan? That is what maybe I'm going to spend a little bit of time on before I go to the rest of the parts of it. Some important questions that each one of you have, I'm going to talk about that. CAT 2020 exam pattern. Unfortunately, the IIMs have not come out with this pattern. In fact, the convener has also said that, boss, we have never given this CAT pattern before. Why are you even asking for this kind of a statement? By the way, that is true, but that was all prior to 1999, 2000. I mean, our vintage. We never had an idea of what the paper was going to be. We just went there and wrote and planned our 2 hours, and that was a 2-hour exam at that point of time. Maybe I think we are getting back the old times. Then we'll talk about what scores are required to get what percentiles, again in terms of percentages, not in terms of exact scores, because none of us know what is the exact pattern going to be. Then I am going to introduce you to what I believe is a very important concept, and that concept is called the 5-mark moving average. I will explain this as I go along, and then we will start looking at how do I analyze this in each of the 3 areas, and therefore the strategy for each of the areas for improvement. Then we'll talk about how many mocks to be written, how to improve individual areas, and last 2 minute ka gyan. It might be still giving you that kind of a pump up, that kind of a fillip to make sure that you guys don't give up right now. Okay, that's going to be my agenda. On 29th of November or the late evening of 29th of November, depending on whatever slots you have got, you will come back and thank me for this session. I'm actually, ye mera dawa hai. It's almost like predicting that you will be happy. Now, having said this, let's look at, do you need to plan anything at all? Frankly, guys, we always think that there are 30 days, or maybe 30 days back you thought there were 60 days. Obviously, 3 months back you thought one month, but that a lot of days go waste. A lot of days where you kind of don't do anything at all. Therefore, making sure that you have a perfect plan. When I'm using the word perfect, but it's the implementation that matters, not the plan itself, but making sure that you guys are not going to be guilty of life. Half the problems in our life is when we get guilty that yaar main ye karna chahta tha, maine nahi kiya. I wanted to do it, but I could not do it, kind of things. I am also speaking in Hindi once in a while. Ye aadat ka majburi hai, but all the people who are down south, especially in Chennai or Karnataka or Kerala, I am definitely not going to make sure. I'm going to definitely make sure that not a single word is going to be missed in English, even though I use Hindi sometimes. Okay, so with that as the background and with that as the preamble, I am going to start off with some of the very important FAQs that all of you have asked me. Many of you have asked me. I hope you can see it on screen. I'm answering this question straight away, and there are hundreds and tons of questions which come in, but I thought these are the 4 more important ones. Should you take up new topics, especially in quantitative aptitude? It's true for data interpretation or logical reasoning also, but far more truer for quantitative aptitude. Here is my advice. What you do not know, trust me, does not matter. What you know and what you can know more as we go along is going to matter much, much more. I'll give you this example that I follow in CAT every year after year after year for 25 years. I have been writing CAT. ये मत बोलना कि यार इतना बार लिखा but नया आया kind of things. But आ गया था life में बहुत पहले. But here is the pattern. Here is what I look at it. And that's exactly the way I looked at it when I wrote my CAT in 1994. Really, really long time back. I was not good at geometry mensuration. I was not good at. It's not that I can't solve, but actually it is not even that I was not good at. I hated it. I didn't like it. Sometimes happens. Sometimes you don't like permutations and combinations. Sometimes you don't like some things. You can get panicky about it. Or the reverse. You don't bother about it at all. You think about it, saying that, ठीक है यार, फर्क नहीं पड़ता मुझे. So what? Like, for example, at that point of time, out of 50 questions, there used to be 8-9 questions in geometry. I have to only think that I have to do only 42 questions. Now, for example, if the paper has only 25 questions and 5 of them are going to be geometry, I'll be very happy. I have 40 minutes, only 20 questions to touch. Because the moment it's a geometry question, I'll probably leave it. Can you have that kind of a mindset? If you can, I am saying it is still good, worth it not to worry about it. Even in algebra, it's not that all of algebra you can't know, but there will be certain areas in algebra where, despite putting in lots of effort, let's say it is a logarithms. Despite putting in lots of efforts, you were not able to get scores in logarithms. What do? Quit, ditch. Don't worry about that. That is my first answer. Then the next question, which keeps coming back again and again to everybody, is how to select sets in DILR. I have said this before. Jijo has said this before. Gautam Baba, GP sir, everybody has said this before. Look, the mindset when you go into an exam matters much more than whether you can select 1 set, 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, or 5 sets. When you go into an exam with a mindset that I just want 2 sets to solve and I will crack it, 3 sets, because obviously the scores required to get a 90 percentile or a 95 percentile are not very, very high, especially in DILR. And therefore, you become very, very conservative. Trust me, my friends, when you become so conservative, you actually end up making a mess out of the entire exam. You know what? When you write an exam like the CAT, you can't be going and hoping that, hey, mujhe mil jaye to acha hai. You need to have a disdain for this exam. A little bit of a carefree nature if required be. I'm not saying studying should be carefree. No, not at all. But like the Mumbai Indians yesterday, the way they chased the RCB target, it was like nonchalant. It's not that they were not worried. Quinton de Kock or a Surya Yadav or a Ishan or a Krunal or later on a Hardik Pandya when he was hitting, there was a swag. The swag is what you require. You may still fail. Remember, all of these guys fail sometime or the other. But when you don't get the pressure on you, when you don't let the pressure on you, you do better. And this is something which I again and again am saying, always will be important for this. Don't try to kind of play a defensive game in the CAT exam. Of course, there's no opponent to the CAT. You yourself are the opponent, or the exam itself is the opponent for it. There's no second person there. But I'm saying, if you want to win, and if you want to win big, my sincere advice, go to maximize your scores. Do not worry about Yeah, can I select one set or two sets? But there is one important thing that is important, my friends. The same question, how to select easy questions in quant or how to select DIR. These questions which are there, I think the reason I put it across, and the third, the last one, if you look at what should I do if I'm getting stuck in a passage set or a question, I think all of these are related to swag, related to confidence, related to your disdain for the exam. And what am I saying is this: आता है, if you are able to get it, solve. If you're not able to get it, if you're stuck, don't have ego. Don't have ego. Leave the ego at home. In fact, leave the ego with us. From today onwards, for the next 30 days, 31 days that is there for the CAT exam, I am saying, let the ego go for a toss. Let all the worries that you have got very less percentile or more percentile or higher percentile, you might have been spending 1 year away. I know of a student who has been telling me, and I've been in touch with him, Arjun, I don't know whether you're listening to me. He used to get much more marks in the old pattern. Suddenly, the new pattern, the scores are wobbling, and there is a lot of panic. There's a lot of panic. He says, "यार 95 भी आएगा क्या? Last time he got 95 or 94. 95 भी आएगा क्या? यहाँ तो दिखता नहीं है कि 80 आएगा." Trust me, a lot of people are like that. Lot of people are like that. You don't give up. You will be surprised with your result. So keep this. In fact, I'll come back to this as a mindset issue, which I'm going to take you through the mindset 1 week before the CAT again, so that you don't forget it. But this is important for you to remember even today when you're preparing for it. Don't give up. But I'm going to kind of make this plan include all the issues in the world that you have to. Keep that in mind. I'm going to look at it. Now, here is what I'm going to talk about, the CAT 2020 paper. I do not know. Nobody knows. Probably the IIM Indore guys know, and the convener knows. But we know that the question paper, my bet, GP's bet, Gijo's bet, and all of us bet, Gautam's bet, etc., is it could be between 60 and 75. More likely to be 70 to 75 or 66 to 75 than 60. We will hopefully know. But here is what I'm saying, guys. What if till the last day they don't come out with the pattern? What if they don't come out with the pattern till the last day? Will you give up? Will you feel sad about it? Will you feel jittery about it? 200,000 students who are writing the exam don't know it. So don't you. You are probably maturing early. That's all I can say. When you do an MBA and get into the corporates, you will have to learn the entire story in a very, very, by baptism by fire, I'll call it. You learn that in real life, because nothing is certain in the real world. Given the kind of COVID that we have gone through, you know that nothing needs to be certain also. But have you coped up with it? Have you been able to adapt to it? If you have and others have not, you are going to be the winner. So in fact, if I were you, my friends, I think welcome it, especially those of you who are thinking of going to an IIM, XLFMS, or any of the top 20, 30 institutes. If you want to go to any institutes, that you don't need me at all. But if you want to go to the best of the institutes, you will definitely need me, or a GP sir, or a GB sir, or a Jijo sir, Rahul sir, Nikun sir, etc. Why? Because we will tell you what is very, very relevant for you. The mindset change. Okay. So welcome whatever happens. Yes, you might come back and crib, especially if you have the 8:30 slot, not the 4:30 or the 12:30 slot, saying that, sir, the other two guys will have an advantage. I will not have an advantage at 8:30 kind of a statement. They will normalize that. Remember this, 60,000 people or 65,000 people write it in the slot 1. The entire slot will have certain sigma, that is standard deviation, and it will have a variance, it will have a mu, mean, etc. They will normalize. There is a possibility that one day before the exam they will release it, so that that information is available to everybody else too. But doesn't matter. Even if you can crib for aeons, but that's of no use in life. Don't waste your time is what I would say. Here is what, therefore, consider whatever the score may be. I have converted the percentiles into the marks into percentages, because I don't know, but we know for sure that every question will be 3 marks plus 3 marks and minus 1 mark for every wrong answer. There will be MCQs and non-MCQs, and non-MCQs will have most probably no negative mark. So what I have considered in the next slide, is this, that what is important is whatever the score is, can you convert that into a percentage mark, and accordingly you will get it. That is what I'm going to look at it here. If you want to get a 99.8 plus percentile, then your score in percentage terms will be 60% requirement, which means to say, if the total score is 200, you will need a 120. If the total score was 300, the score required was 180. Remember this. The percentage will not change, and I can vouch for this over the last 30 years, almost 30 years, 1990 to 2019. This number has not changed too much. One odd year in 2017 or 2015 or 2008 or 9, it would have changed, but by and large, it has remained the same. So this is a very, very important, a parameter that to look at. For example, somebody wants to get a 95 percentile. You will need to get 40% of the paper. That means if the paper is for 200 marks, which it could be, by the way, approximately. If it is for 200 marks, it can't be 200. Actually, it will be 225 or 210, something like that. If you get about 80 to 85 marks, you will get a 95 percentile, and subsequently half the mark. Therefore, if it is 225 marks, at 110 to 115 marks, you will get a 99 percentile. And 120 plus marks out of a 225 paper or 125 marks will be almost sure to get into an Ahmedabad, Calcutta kind of a required score. This, therefore, my friends, is the benchmark, the ballpark figure and the benchmark. I want you to keep it for yourself. How does this change in the CL mocks? My bet is in the CL mocks, each of these can reduce by 3 to 5%. For example, at 35%, if you're getting CL scores, 35% of the total mark, that will be equivalent to a 95 percentile in the actual CAT exam. In general, it will help because we have kind of overall, sometimes the quant is easy, sometimes the verbal is easy, sometimes the DI is easy, but overall we make it a little more tougher than the CAT exam. And that's true for all the institutes also in general. Okay, so this is what I want you to understand first.